Hey guys, it's Scott with Scottie B Cards, and in this video I want to look at the likability and investability of the top players in Major League Baseball. So one thing I like to do every once in a while is run story polls on my Instagram called Scottie B Cards. If you want to see those story polls, occasionally go check it out. I also will sell cards and ask questions, do stuff there. But the latest poll I did is, do you like these specific players? And do you think these specific players are a good long-term investment? I think I put 20 to 50 years in the future. Long time. And I actually asked my audience, do you like these players? Are they a good investment? And these are your answers. So I'm going to say these players are or are not a good investment, rank them from worst to best, and go over how much they increased and decreased year over year, because 20 of the 26 players I made a video on last year. So we can see how people's opinions have changed, how performance has changed, how we view them in just 12 months, and so forth. So if you hate this list, let me make one thing abundantly clear. These aren't my picks. I did not rank these. You ranked these. So get mad at yourself, not me, because someone's going to get mad at me in these comments because I put someone too low, but it was you, not me. Okay, let's jump into this. So this is what I posed it as. This was the investment question. Do you think the following players will have long-term value? Will their cards be chased and remembered 25 to 50 years from now? The first question was, I need your help ranking the likability of these players. Please let me know if you like or do not like them. And I had about, like 740 different responses, which is a pretty good sample size, really. So let's see what people had to say. At number 26 is Carlos Correa. One thing I'll note is I combined the likability and the investability and divided it by 2. You can say that's stupid. At the end, I will show you the total rankings by likability by itself and by investability by itself. I did it this way because there's also if you like a player and also think they're a good investment. I think both are important to determining card values. But for Correa, he had a 15% overall score, 24% said they liked him, and 5% said that he's investable. Crazy enough, he had 3% last year. He's basically doubled on investing, and he is higher on likability. Altuve, no surprise, is also low. He is at 25% likability, 19% investability for his baseball cards, for an overall score of 22%. Not great. At number 24, it makes sense Tatis is here as well, and people last year thought he was still investable. His likability is basically flat. He was essentially 43% last year. He's still 43%. His investability has tanked down to 12% for an overall score of 28%. Manny Machado is at number 23. People have soured on Manny Machado, at least according to these polls. His likability is 41%. His investability is 22% for an overall score of 32%. I think a lot of this is recency bias. We'll talk about that later. There's a lot of recency bias on here. As you're going to see some of these young guys, it might make you mad, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Bo Bichette, he has been destroyed in the investability category, down to 8%. His likability was 62%, still pretty high, especially because he basically said he's leaving Toronto, and that could hurt some Blue Jays fans' opinion of him. It might make them not like him as much, but 35% is his score. Lindor has made a pretty big jump. His investability, I did not change these scores, forgive me, from last year. Last year he was 60% and 7% for investability. He's up to 66% on likability and 21% on investability for a score that is between Bo Bichette and Paul Goldschmidt. I don't know exactly what that score is, but I'd probably guess 40 or so, maybe 40. At number 20, Paul Goldschmidt. He's dropped a lot. Very bad performance so far. Some people don't think he'll make the Hall of Fame. I still think he will. Please don't yell at me in the comments. It's not that big of a deal. I think he'll get in. It is what it is. I like him, but at the same time, I understand where these people are coming from. So the likability is 74%. The people still like him, but they believe his long-term collectability is only 24% for a score of 49%. Then we have Corey Seager. He's past Goldschmidt. That could be some recency bias with the World Series with the Rangers because his actual stats for his career aren't nearly as good, but we have likability of 77%, investability of 27% for a score of 52%. 18 is Alvarez. He's been basically flat year over year, and we'll talk about him later, but 76% likability, 36% on investability for a score of 56%. Nolan Arenado has had a huge drop just as Goldschmidt did. He is way down on investability. He was like above 50% and his likability was higher. Now he's at 77%. His investability is 36% for an overall score of 57%. I wonder how many Cardinal fans don't like him and Goldschmidt this year for how bad they've played, but that could be the case. Rafael Devers has moved up in investability. These are the old numbers again. He's flat on likability. Investability is actually 37%, which puts his ranking into, I forgot to change it, forgive me, from last year, but he's higher than Arenado and he's lower than Jose Ramirez. I should say 16 anyways. My fault on that one. At number 15 is Jose Ramirez. I'm surprised he's gotten this high. His investability was much lower last year. Much lower. This was right after he got in that fight with, was this after Tim Anderson fight? I can't remember, but regardless, his investability has gone way up, which is good. His likability also has gone up slightly for a total score of 59%, which is pretty good. At number 14 is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Surprisingly, Vlad dropped on investability, even having like one of the best years of his career. Definitely the best year outside of that 2021 season, by far the best of his career. And people are more sour on him, even though he's only 25. I don't understand. But likability is 85%, investability is 40% for a score of 63. This is where it gets interesting because we have young guys. And what do collectors like? Young guys. You guys love them. We all love them. We all like speculating. But we're predicting investability of Julio Rodriguez is basically better than everybody else we just said. I don't know if I agree, but likability 84%, investability at 45% for an overall score of 65%. Paul Skeens we're predicting to have investability. 56% of people say that he'll be relevant 25 to 50 years from now, and he has a really high likability score. I wonder how much of that is his girlfriend and how much is Paul Skeens himself for a score of 72%. Ellie De La Cruz is at 48% investability score, likability of 81%. This one I have a hard time with. I hope he's good for the Reds' sake, but that seems pretty crazy and pretty high. But again, this isn't my ranking. You ranked these. And number 10 is Gunnar Henderson. This one makes more sense, right? This makes more sense. He's shown potential. 91% likability, 63% investability. Acuna has had a massive fall from grace in regards to this list. He was above 90% in likability and investability, I believe, last year. He was around 90, and now he's at 69% for investability. Still liked, but I don't know what he did to be unliked. It's not his fault he got hurt, but his investability is much, much lower for an overall score of 77. At number 8 is Freddie Freeman, basically exactly the same as last year. We can look at his numbers in a moment. 91% likability, 67% investability for a score of 79%. Juan Soto's had a huge jump. I wonder if I'd have put him in a Yankees uniform. It's the same photos as last year. I chose the same photos so there wouldn't be like people voting based off of the imagery. It's the exact same as what I did last year when I had 1,000 votes as well. And likability's up 82%, investability's up at 90%, playing much better for the Yankees than he was with the Padres. Makes sense. Bryce Harper at number 6. He was at 78% last year, up to I believe 87, but he's gone way up as well, which is good. So 82% likability, 92% investability, and for a total score of 87. Bobby Witt Jr. is the highest young guy. He has the highest likability on this entire list. He plays for the Royals. Go Royals. Wearing a Royals hat today because my Rockies hat is dirty. People like him, and there's no reason not to. He's not having any like big rivals who he's been rude to. He's a pretty quiet guy, really nice, really humble. Investability 82%. Is that too high? You tell me. We've seen his offensive ceiling this year, and it's crazy, so who knows? Overall score of 89%. Aaron Judge at number 4 with 87% likability, 95% investability, for an overall score of 91%. He's a big riser this year as well because of him having a monster year. People are really coming around on Aaron Judge. They're realizing he actually just hit 50 WAR this week, which is pretty good. Mike Trout's at number 3. He had 93% likability, investability at 91%. He was like at 97 and 98 last year for these two. Dropped a lot. People are really getting concerned about his injuries. I think it's completely valid. Mookie's 93 and 94. His investability is up. His likability is down, but still 94% is number 2. And number 1 is Shohei Ohtani. No surprise there. Likability 94%, investability 98%. Since he went to the Dodgers, his likability went from like 97 down to 93%. Not surprising because, they might not like him on the Angels anymore. So that is the list. Let's talk about some of the biggest risers. Rafael Devers, Bryce Harper, Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor, and Aaron Judge are the biggest risers year over year in the average score. So they're up way big. Bryce Harper got into the top 5 or 6. Juan Soto's in the top 5 or 6. Lindor is up a ton from his investability score. And Aaron Judge, he is now in the top 5, which is pretty cool. The biggest fallers, we have Tatis 10%, Goldschmidt 11%, Arenado 12%, Acuna 15%, Bo Bichette negative 20%. Huge drop year over year. Acuna makes sense. Injury. Arenado and Goldschmidt are just aging and not playing as well, so that aging curve is normal. Tatis is injured and not being as good of a defender and still not being as good of an offensive player, so maybe the steroids were helping a little bit. Who knows? And then Bo Bichette's just been horrible. He's been horrible this year, so that's why he's dropped so much. Here are the stats. We can see here's the average. If you want to look at the data. For the likability score, we had Witt, Ohtani, Mookie, Trout, Freeman, Gunnar, Paul Skeens, Aaron Judge, Acuna, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to round out the top 10. And then over here for investability, it was Ohtani, Judge, Mookie, Harper, Trout, Soto, Witt, Acuna, Freeman, and Gunnar were the top investable players. So that is this list. Here is the main takeaways. Lots of recency bias for those young guys. We'll see how this looks next year. It's fun to do this year over year. If you want to go with your gut and not what is popular, that's a main takeaway I saw with like Lindor. If you have a gut, he was a good player, you were right, and you could have made a lot of money. Aging curves are going to kill values in the short term. So if you like a player and you PC them, once they hit their mid-30s, they're going to lose value. Just like we saw with Machado, Arenado, Goldschmidt, as they don't become all-time greats. They're just greats. They're Hall of Famers, but that's still going to hurt their long-term value in people's eyes. And here's the raw data. If you want to look at it, pause it, feel free. But other than that, thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments down below who our audience missed on. And other other than that, I'll see you in the next one.